Good afternoon, everyone. The Sacramento City Council will please come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll so that we might establish a quorum?
Councilmember Ashby, Councilmember Warren, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Hanson, Councilmember Jennings, Councilmember Guerra, and Mayor Steinberg.
I am here. Thank you. The quorum has been established. Let us all rise, please, if we might. And I would ask Ms. Leslie Fritchie to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, just if I might, everyone who signs up under any matter of public comment, either on the agenda or not on the agenda, is welcome to speak, but we do not allow anyone to shout out from the audience just because we're trying to maintain a decorum and make sure that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. So let us begin with a special presentation recognizing B Street Theater's contribution to the arts. Who's taking the lead on this one? Do we have Mr. Musfield? Well, I'll take the lead happily. Is it you, Steve? I just want to say two words. Popcorn Falls. That's all I want to say.
I'm glad you liked it.
Had the opportunity to see that play in that presentation, and it was really great. Just like everything B Street does is a lot of style.
We thought you'd like the tennis play better.
I like that as well.
That for you. Yeah.
Yes, that was good too. Anyways, thank you for all you do, and please take a few minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, staff, everyone. It's a real honor and pleasure to be reporting out before City Council. It's an honor because the City of Sacramento was an early believer in the project of creating a large world-class theater for kids in Sacramento. I think people have heard me say this by now. We wrote a letter to then Mayor Joe Cerna in 1998. He immediately brokered a meeting with Sutter Health and said, we want you to give this project, consider giving them some land. And 5 years later, they gave us half a city block. And we had a building on the way, but we had no programming that we wanted that replicated Minneapolis and Seattle. And we went to the state and we received a $300,000 gift as a member's request from Assemblyman Steinberg and Senator Ortiz. So we had the beginnings of a facility for a big theater for kids, and we had some funding to get started. So now it brings us to today, where I'm reporting out on our first full fiscal year at the Sophia. And right now, things are really good. I won't say that was true when we first moved in. We got permitting and immediately started performing. We didn't know where the bathrooms were. We didn't know how to queue people up before concessions or the box office, and we worked out all that. We also were constrained financially the first year because I learned something that all of you, apparently every human on earth knows, which is that building projects always cost a lot more than you think. And we spent about $200,000 of precious operating dollars to pay down some construction overage there. But I'm going to quickly go through the slides here. Go ahead, if you would, Leslie. Do you want to do that for me? That'd be great. I want to thank, the first slide is just to let you folks know that this thing is we're not alone in this. If you look at the thank you for our partners, these are all partners that give us money so we can take programming to kids. Obviously, it costs money to do such. Each of those we go to, and some come to us to get funding for workshops and performances in the schools, and we try to hit as many neighborhoods as we can. Also, this is going to go fast, I think, here. And just some quick numbers. I'm going to bury you quickly in numbers. If I could, the B Street Theater is up 10% over its old venue. Go to the next one. That's important. And then this is an interesting one. When we were at the old B Street Theater, we did not do live music, dance, stand-up comedy, workshops on that scale, and lecture, concert, et cetera. And we started, in our first year, we did 80 performances. We're looking at 150 in year two. We got about 17,000 in the first year. And here's an important statistic. 18% are coming up from the Bay Area for all that stuff in the big Sutter Theater. And then here's the heart and soul of the company, the educational programs. The first one, the Family Series. The Family Series really is the large professional theater we dreamed of, and it's up astonishing 44% over the last year at the old B Street we're up 44% in attendance. That's 12,000 more kids. Our school tour is humming along. We have classes. I do want to point out the Sutter Hospital Child Life Center. We work with kids with health challenges there. And a 2-year program, the County Office of Probation, where we work with probationers to help them with their interview techniques. In the first year, we did 2 lender events, city council events. We did 22 free performances for 7,400 kids, and we gave away 942 free tickets and half-price tickets. The next slide, if you will, the free performances and programs for teens, we ran into a little bit of trouble. These are mandated by the master loan agreement because kids, basically teenagers' schedules are not as accommodating as elementary. They move from class to class to class, and so we didn't do as well as we hoped for, but we're already ahead for the next year. And then if the bottom of that page there, these are just local groups that we allowed to use at either a discount or free to use the bigger theater there. Coming up in 1920, you'll see our roof deck patio built out, which is going to be a beautiful place for private functions and public functions. We're going to go to LORT status, which means nothing to you. It's the highest level of union status with Actors Equity Association. We hosted the National New Play Network, over 300 industry professionals from throughout the country. And we got a grant for an accessibility initiative so we can do performances for kids that are on the spectrum and other disabilities. So the first year was a little touch and go. Second year is already looking good. I must say, our second full fiscal year, we are 3/4 of the way through it, and the first almost 3/4, and I think we're going to turn a surplus in each quarter, and we've not done that since 2008. And I must tell you this, that on December 31st of 2019, we got $1 million gift. And it's going to be paid out on a monthly basis, and it's going to give us a real chance at long-term sustainability. And that's what we want more than anything else, is not have to worry about payroll every week and build and grow. And so it's been the first year, a little sketchy. We hit our numbers. We did hit our numbers. But the second year is quite promising.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions?
Leslie, do you want to come to the mic if you would, please? Because we're trying to understand whether there's just an
This
ask
is
here.
really, no, this is just really a year in the review, and to
Okay.
thank the council for your contributions to make the Sophia happen.
Okay.
And so it's really just a snapshot in time.
We appreciate it. And there is a item on the consent calendar. Do you want to describe what that is, please?
Yes, that's correct. The item on the consent calendar actually involves 2 different things. As Buck mentioned in his presentation, there were some performance milestones set out in the original loan agreement. The way the loan agreement was written, however, it was not a full calendar year the first year. Their certificate of occupancy occurred in October, and then the end of the fiscal year was June. So they didn't have a full year, but by the letter of the law or by our city attorney's read of it, they had to hit all of those milestones, even though it was a truncated year. So we have to bring forward this report, which basically allows us to waive the first annual forgivable loan payment that would have been due if they had not met their milestones. So they came very close in that shortened year and have made significant strides to make up for that and more in the full calendar year, which we are in the middle of right now. So that is the item before you today, as well as some tweaks to language changes in the agreement itself.
Okay. Well, we think the B Street is a treasure in Sacramento and continued success, and we will collaborate and work with you in every way that we can. We have a couple members who want to make comments, that we got to get back to the agenda, okay? Or to the rest of the agenda. Are we done with the presentation, or?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Harris, Vice Mayor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Buck, I remember well the night that we debated your forgivable loan and the financial straits that you were in to try to get the B Street Theater out of the ground. It was a lively discussion, and a lot hung in the balance. And frankly, it went the right way, and now you've created the B Street Theater, which I would say is truly a jewel in our city. As I mentioned to you a couple minutes ago, I frequented it often. I saw the play Ride, Sally, Ride just Sunday. It was brilliant. And I've gone to concerts there too as well. Saw Marcia Ball last week and Sonny Landreth, and seen lots of acts there. You know, without that facility, I remember what it was like, you know, in your previous abode, right? It wasn't the same experience. It's really stellar. You've created something unique and wonderful in our city, and I know that it was hard going the first year. But, you know, the word out on the street is it's a fantastic experience at B Street, and indeed it is. So I laud you and the entire company because they work hard and they really produce. Thanks a million.
Councilman Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. Buck, the Sophia has really been an amazing project. We had to twist a lot of arms to get to the point where you could build it, and I just want to congratulate you and your team. As one of your staff put it at the day we cut the ribbon, you went from an outhouse to a penthouse. And I think the theater has lived up to all the expectations we set for it, the programming for the schools, the opportunity for other community groups to use it. I think you've lived up to all of the things and way beyond that we ever asked. But it has changed Midtown for the better. And it started, honestly, with Mayor Cerna a long time ago, working with Sutter. And that legacy continues to be strong. Obviously, then Assembly Member Steinberg had a big role in kicking the project off, and I'm glad we're here today to be so proud of the Sophia and know that we made the right leap of faith in trusting you and your team to do something great for the community. So congratulations, Buck. And to Leslie and our economic development team who helped us twist a couple of those arms because of the Brown Act.
Very good, Leslie. Yes, thank you. This was really a big economic development win for the city too, because as we say often, the creative economy is an essential piece of our economic future, our inclusive economic future, and all the things B Street's doing for kids out in the community and your workshops. I mean, it's all part of the fabric of building the kind of city that we want. So we move on. Okay, the consent calendar, please. Moved and seconded. There's something read into the record here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have speakers on this item, and I'd like to read, Councilmember Harris has a comment on item number 1, and on item number 15, the contract for Stanford Park restroom project. The recommendation is to pass a motion, not adopt a resolution. And I do have 8 speakers on this.
Okay, let us hear from the public on any item on the consent calendar, then we will take a vote, please.
Thank you. And I'd like to remind the audience this meeting is being video streamed and can be viewed live or later on the city's website. Members of the public who wish to address the council should complete a speaker slip, which can be found at the back of the room. Speaker slips do need to be turned into the clerk prior to the beginning of each item. Please fully complete the speaker slip with name and any phonetic clarification and preferred pronoun so that everyone has the opportunity to address the council. Members of the public are asked to observe the rules of decorum. The council rules of procedure outline decorum expected in the chambers and can be found on our website. Copies in the back of the room and is summarized on the back of the speaker slip. For instance, use of swear words, yelling from the audience, physically threatening conduct, and displays of disrespect are discouraged. The presiding officer will request a person cease disruptive conduct, and if not immediately stopped, the presiding officer will direct the person to leave the council meeting. Each speaker has 2 minutes to address the council. Please silence your cell phones or any other communications device and refrain from using flash photography or lights on video equipment. A cordless microphone, assisted listening device, and parking validations are available from the clerk.
Okay, before we start calling the public comment, Jeff, Council Vice Mayor Harris has a quick comment. Go.
Thank you, Mayor. So this comment is on consent item number 1 about the forgivable loan for the B Street Theater. I see that one of the benchmarks you didn't hit was a single performance in District 3. And I just want you to know that myself and my constituents forgive you as well. And I'm very much in supportive of the item, and maybe we'll make it up sometime in the future. Thank you, Buck.
Very good. Let's hear from the public.
Thank you. I have 8 speakers on the consent calendar. The first is Flo Kofer on item 3, Marjorie Dickinson on item 3, and Mac Worthy on item 3. Ms. Kofer?
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. I am here as the chair of your Measure U Community Advisory Committee, and we have, as a committee, unanimously voted to submit this letter as a series of recommendations to you. In the interest of time, I just want to focus on the 5 recommendations that we've made. The first of which is we are vetting the participatory budgeting process, and we would like to be able to set aside $5 million to be able to do that in support of many of the priorities that have already been set out for Measure U. In addition, we really recommend a few process things in terms of how we handle Measure U moving forward. One of which is making sure that we are built into the process, so any items that are going to be considered for Measure U money come to our committee first, because that is the reason why we exist, and that we work in a way to make sure that that can happen in a timely fashion with our monthly meetings. In addition, we'd also like to recommend that all the items that come before this body are labeled in terms of the source of funds that are indicated in being used. We have seen several instances where on the back end, the city manager's office is trying to figure out where to get money for things that have been approved. And I think it's helpful in terms of transparency for the public as well as for members of the Measure U committee to know and to have things labeled as potentially being Measure U funds. We also would like to make sure that we're getting quarterly reports. Measure U in the 1 cent iteration has already been in existence for now, moving up to a year, and we haven't gotten any updates on how much revenue has come in, nor have we gotten any additional updates on how much has been expended, and so our committee needs that in order to be able to successfully function. And then lastly, we made a recommendation for an allocation in December that related to the pop-ups, and we're asking that the other entities that are funded by Measure U also contribute matching funds to be able to support that. That it should not just be the individual allocation to those organizations, but they should also be contributing from a budget that they're benefiting from.
So I want to say one thing, if I might here. Two things. Number one, to thank you and your committee for the amount of time and effort that you are putting into helping us get this right. It's really important and it's really valued. The second thing is I want to make an offer, public offer here.
Okay.
As mayor of the city, I would like to offer 2 to 3 hours of my time in a public setting to have a workshop with the Measure U Advisory Committee. I would really like that in a workshop form over like the next month, and any of my colleagues, if it's done pursuant legally to the Brown Act and all that, would be welcome to come as well. But I would like to sit informally with you in public and have a broader conversation about Measure U, where we're going, at least what's in my head, where the committee is going, some of these timing and process questions that I know have become difficult, if you will, as you're proceeding, as we're proceeding. So I think that's a good next step. Rather than, I would love to do that. Can we set
Yes.
it? Can we set a date?
Yes.
Where we actually sit down, whatever it is.
I think that would be really great, especially moving into 2021, so that we can kind of get this right. I know it takes a while.
Within 2 weeks,
Okay.
3 weeks, if that works for everybody, we sit down, round table, and we talk.
Okay.
Fair?
Yes, we would love to make that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next speaker is Marjorie Dickinson, then Mac Worthy.
Good afternoon, council members and Mayor Steinberg. First, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve on this important committee. Associate myself completely with Chair Kofer's remarks and amplify a couple of things. First, we wrote this letter in response to the mayor's invitation back in September for us to help more clearly define what our approach was going to be. And the letter reflects our understanding of what we want to do and how we're moving forward. I want to emphasize the process questions need attention. And I truly appreciate the mayor's offer, and we'll
Make
do
it 4 hours.
4 hours would be a pleasure. And acknowledge that we're all building the plane while we're flying it, and we don't want to crash land it. We want to have a success. In fact, it's our intent and commitment to really make a meaningful impact in ensuring that the Measure U funds are expended consistent with the provisions of Measure U, so that we improve the quality of life for all Sacramento residents and communities, that we serve as a resource. The committee serves as a resource and an asset to the staff, to the council, and to the community at large. Our goal is a collegial and collaborative working relationship with the city council and city staff so that we're able to best perform our duties. Again, really appreciate the opportunity to serve. I have to tell you that the committee is really talented, super smart, very dedicated, and we're looking forward to the next steps and are excited about the mayor's proposal. Thank you.
Good. Thank you as well, Marge, for all the work that you and the committee are doing here, and I look forward to our workshop. Thank you. Mr. Worthy.
Mac Worthy on item 3, then Jamar Jefferson on item 6.
Pound, I oppose to the mayor getting involved in this because you appointed people. Let your ad hoc committee bring this to the people in the neighborhood. And then what you decide to do with what the ad hoc committee report back to you, you do. Because, see, you don't even know how much money have come in yet. So how did you set a budget? See, people, if you haven't created something and you're sitting on this committee, you're wasting the time of the people. Where is your transparency with the neighborhood? That's what an ad hoc committee is set up for. Ad hoc committee, take it to the neighborhood. We ain't seen nothing go to the neighborhood. But yet still, we're saying you want a budget and you ask for $2.some million. And you're gonna wind up here with blowing some money the way you've been blowing money all the time. You got too many nonprofit organizations gonna sipe off this money instead of you gonna create a business off this money that people can get a decent job that pays something enough to survive. You ain't got nothing on the agenda that people gonna get a job to pay something. You still at grants and bonds. Realize this thing, people, I attended one of the meetings, I ain't seen nothing professional. Half of the people didn't even know what's going on. People wake up, get with your accountant and let your accountant sit down there and tell them how you put on the agenda to use this money. Because you're not gonna set aside no $40 million a year. That's not gonna happen through this money. That money gonna be used because it goes to a slush fund. Used when it get ready. Just like we see the SHRA money. How did they cut a check to the NAACP? This is what we got going on, folks. Anybody can cut a check that got that to go to a nonprofit organization. We want to know, what are you really doing with this money?
Thank you. Jamar Jefferson on item 6, then Sarah Foster on item 7.
Before you start my time, she told me I can speak on every issue within my 2 minutes. Is that correct?
2 minutes. You have 2 minutes in total.
So, thank you. So, let me address the measure. Thank you, y'all, my creator, y'all. Moment of silence. Thank you. Y'all's honored. So, the mayor says that the B Street Theater is a treasure in Sacramento. What about the rest of the city? And you're willing to forgive $150,000 when you're writing people tickets outside left and right, and they turn into $200 tickets. Where are the forgiveness for the mother and parents out there that y'all are feeding the general fund through the tickets? Let's not forgive anything. You have an economic Armageddon that you have a legal obligation to pay CalPERS for pensions. This ain't the time to forgive anyone. They have to meet their standards just like the rest of us have to work. This is not the time to continue to give freebies to your friends while people are sleeping outside in creeks and bridges. Irresponsible leadership. Once again, on the Measure U, the mayor should have no business sitting down with that committee. In open session, he's talking about leading and giving them their marching orders. That's what he said. I'd like to sit down with you, not 3, but 4 hours, so I can let you know what I'm thinking. He came into the NAACP and did the same thing, telling people what they should and shouldn't have done when they didn't endorse Measure U. Now, talking about Measure U on item 3, I know where the money been. She said she don't know. 83 million in the budget was proposed. 40 million went to the police, 17 went to the fire. We got $1 million for pop-ups. You put $600,000 for gang task force, and none of it was made available. It's a slush fund. Each one of them got $30,000 pay raise. That's where the money going from. And another one, item 6. You want to suspend competitive bidding? Seriously? What kind of dog and pony show is this? Irresponsible. They should vote each and every last one of you out of office because my generation can't afford this.
Your time is complete. Our next speaker is Sarah Foster. Sarah Foster, Felicia Clark, then Janet Fricke.
Hi, I'm Sarah Foster. Thank you for the opportunity of speaking to you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'm speaking on Article 7 on this consent calendar. That is, I'm calling it a mushroom measure. What's a mushroom measure? That's from the country western song, "Those politicians think I'm a mushroom. They keep me in the dark and feed me bull." And this sure does. The rationale for Article 7 is that there's been a significant increase in the number of contracts requiring council approval. And that's because they have to make reports, and that increases the workload of the city manager and the city council, because you got to read them. And the proposed solution is simply to increase the $100,000 threshold needed for approval. From the taxpayer's perspective, the problem is that Article 7 would keep us and our ability to maintain watch over the public park, and would keep us in the dark as to how you're spending our tax dollars. If this measure is approved, we estimate that the public wouldn't see 50% of the contracts. This money out there, guys. There are certain procedural hoops a contract has to go through right now to gain approval. They have to be heard by Law and Ledge Committee, then by the City Council, and this requires the details with these reports posted prior to the Law and Ledge approval, and that gives the public a chance to scrutinize it and provide input. As the measure states clearly, reports must be prepared. Sure, Law and Ledge waves them through, and then they go on the consent calendar where the City Council follows suit. But at least people can become concerned and informed if they wish to be. At least they have the opportunity to provide input. It keeps the process transparent. Measure Article 7 throws us into the dark. Here are a couple of other objections in addition to the
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete.
This measure could be seen as a gift
Thank
to
you for your
special
comments. Your
interests,
time is complete.
and it expands the authority of the city. Please.
Our next speaker is Felicia Clark on item 17, then Janet Fricke on item 18.
Felicia Clark. I want to address the board about the money that's going to be spent for pest control. I think it said in the year 2021 around $240-something thousand plus is going to be spent on pest control. But we're still arguing about homeless problems and problems at the receiving home. My real agenda is the problem at the receiving home. Your police are still overseeing that receiving home, and you're still ignoring me. I told you a girl was gonna die, someone was gonna die. A girl died, Kendra. Kendra died chasing another girl that staff should have been looking after. A week later, what wasn't on the news was that another child was on that bridge attempting to kill themselves. Now, in a 1-week time frame, you had 2 children trying to kill themselves on a bridge and a freeway because it's right by a receiving home. There's no signs that say caution, children at risk, slow down, wild youth may be present. There's no sidewalks, but we know children are jotting across the street. Now, I protest it every Friday, and every Friday I'm out there going live on Facebook so everybody can see how the city is running that place. You say it's a board of supervisors issue, but it's your issue when you're sending your officers to clean up the dirty work. Your officers are refusing to take police reports for extreme neglect and abuse going on in that receiving home. My daughter just got her nose pierced there, and I was told staff documented it but didn't call the police because no crime was being broke. In the city and state of Sacramento, in the city and county of Sacramento, in the state of California, you need a license to pierce or tattoo anyone. Yet at the children's receiving home on Watt and Auburn Boulevard, you can get piercings and it's not a problem. Staff just sits back and writes it. If my daughter's nose gets infected, I'm gonna personally hold you accountable because you're personally ignoring me. I ask you all the time for meetings, you won't meet with me. Why are you not willing to meet with anybody, any parent who has had a child in there and can tell you personally how we treated, how we dealt with?
For your comments, your time is complete.
More children
you.
are gonna die, you keep ignoring me,
Our
mark
next speaker
my
is
word.
Janet Fricke on item 18, and then Bridget Duffy on the consent calendar.
Hi, good afternoon. I wholeheartedly support your accepting the funds. We need more. I think it's fabulous what they're going to give, as much funding for this community. There's just so much need. I'm finishing up 3 months in a shelter in Elk Grove where we've had people being transported post-hospitalization upon, immediately upon release, the hospital pays to have them transported to Elk Grove. We've had to call 911 to have some taken back because they were released too soon. Not just medical hospitals, but mental hospitals, not just in Sacramento or in Sacramento County, but also from Stockton Boulevard, or from the city of Stockton. Thank you for everything you're doing. I know it's extremely hard. There is so much need. I'll be giving my phone number and name. I don't know what I can do to help, but I know I can do something if I'm told, and I have some other people who would love to volunteer. So if you, I'll just think back for a minute of why you came to be a civil servant, is to help people. And the B Street Theater is a nicety, but people's lives are a necessity. So thank you.
Bridget Duffy is our final speaker on the consent calendar. Bridget Duffy.
Excuse me. Bridget Duffy here?
Hi, I'm speaking, hi, my name is Bridget Duffy, AKA Bridget of the Bridge, building bridges, tearing down walls. I'm here because I'm in objection. Well, I kind of want to give a whole, I want to get this straight. There are 22 items on the consent calendar, correct? And those items were discussed in private by you guys, and they're all being put into the same thing that you vote on. So you vote one time, but you're voting on 22 items that you discussed in private. Is that correct? Pretty much in a nutshell? I think that's correct, pretty much in a nutshell. These consent items were discussed in private without public, no? Okay. I'm a little bit off on it, but basically you're gonna vote yes or no on 22 items all at the same time, correct? 20. And anybody can come up here and make a comment on any of them, right? But we only get 2 minutes, and we have to talk about everything we want to talk about in 2 minutes. But as many people from the public as want to can sign up to speak on this consent item. Okay. Well, I'm here to object to this whole consent item, consent calendar, based on the fact that we do not have a government right now that is representative. We have no voice on subjects that are affecting the people in the street. You're giving money to enhance a society while part of the society is actually dying, right? So basically, it is my opinion as an American citizen right now that we all have an obligation to keep you guys from your business, because right now, your business is all about hurting us, which is against our constitutional rights.
Yes, you're right. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I have no more speakers on the consent calendar.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We do have a motion and a second on the consent calendar. We do have Councilman Jennings has a question or comment.
Thank you. So I just want to speak to Measure G for just a second. Measure U, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank Thank you.
That's tonight.
We'll talk about that a little bit later tonight. So Measure U, I want to speak on that just for a second. I want to thank the chair and the committee members who are here. There are 15 members that are on that committee, and it is a new committee, and they are still forming and going through the process of trying to make sure that they work well within the council. And there are a lot of process and procedures that I think need attention. So I'm hoping when you meet with them, Mayor, and if that's the form that you want to utilize in order to meet with them, I'm hoping that some of the questions that were asked in that letter will be answered in that letter. I think we owe it to them to respond in writing to the letter that they gave us, because I think that will clarify some things in writing as opposed to it being verbal. I think it's very important that we go through that process because we did pass this measure to make sure that we had transparency and also to achieve the goals and objectives for the city of Sacramento. So I want to make sure that as we go through this process, when a letter like that comes in, that somewhere in the city, a letter goes back in response to them, answering their questions, so that they know they get the attention that they deserve for the work that they're doing. And I think that's very important. So I don't know when the letter came in because it didn't have a date on it, but I've read the letter, and there are a lot of unanswered questions that I think need to be answered. I would, instead of having you just go meet with them, I would love it if there was some way that we could legally have a joint meeting of the council and the committee to come together. And I would allow you to talk to the city attorney to see if that's possible. But I think it would be good to give them the direction that we all want them to have as they move forward, and to give them clarity in order to be most effective as a council.
So, if I may, I think that's a great suggestion, and I know by looking over at the city attorney and knowing as a recovering lawyer myself that there is no problem with a duly noticed public meeting that is a joint meeting, if you will, between the Measure U Advisory Committee and the council. And I want to do that. I think that's great. I just offered as a preliminary move before we do that, essentially to come to the committee, certainly not to dictate, just the opposite, to actually have a conversation. Because there's too much translation, if you will, maybe mistranslation, sometimes when there are too many layers between the hard work of this very robust advisory committee and the elected officials. And as mayor, I just think it's important that we just sit down. And I offered it not behind closed doors, but actually, in the open, but in an informal format, if you will, where we can talk about what's in the letter. We can talk a little bit about my vision, our vision for the Measure U program and the implementation, and yes, then to respond in writing to that letter. But I think a written response without your suggestion about the potential of a joint meeting and my suggestion and offer to sit down would be incomplete, because we shouldn't just be communicating
In writing.
to each other in formal ways through writing. So I think we can sequentially do all the things that we have talked about here today, and I'd just like to start with what I offered. Fair enough?
So good. So yeah, I think that was really what I wanted to talk about. And in that meeting, when we meet together, we can talk about the reporting out, whether it be quarterly, whether it be annually, whether it be on a more frequent basis. We can talk about policies and procedures moving forward. We can talk about how do we communicate effectively between the Measure U committee and the council members, and where does that communication come from, so that we can not have to be at every meeting in order to know what's going on. So I just want to put that on the table, because I think as we form a new committee, we want to be very helpful and specific in what it is that we want them to do, and make sure we answer all of their unanswered questions so that they can perform at their highest level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. All in favor of the consent calendar, please say aye. Aye. Oppose, abstain, that passes unanimously. Thank you all. Now let's move to item 21, which is our only item on the discussion calendar for this afternoon. We do have an evening meeting at 5 o'clock, by the way. So let's get to item 21. Who is presenting on this item, please? Our city attorney? Excuse me, we're not going to shout out from the audience. If you want to speak on any item before the agenda, including this one, please sign up now. Appreciate it. Madam City Attorney.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We're here today to present an ordinance for your consideration and adoption, adding to Chapter 8 of the Sacramento City Code related to the protection of critical infrastructure and wildlife risk areas within the city. The proposed ordinance represents a mechanism by which these specific assets of the city can be protected against unauthorized use and/or potential destruction. The city as an entity has at its fundamental core the provision of governmental services for all persons and entities that reside, are located within, do business in, travel, or visit in the city. These governmental services consist of such things as transportation, levee maintenance, utilities, communication systems, cyber systems, delivery of water, wastewater, solid waste disposal, and of course, police and fire and life safety services. These governmental services are provided through a series of buildings, structures, equipment, and asset, coupled with the personnel who work within, operate, and maintain them. And they represent infrastructure, facilities, and services that are so vital and integral to the operation of the city and provision of these basic governmental services that their damage, incapacity, disruption, or destruction by unauthorized persons or entities can result in debilitating impact on public health and safety. To specifically address the ordinance points, the Sacramento Fire Marshal is here to present additional data supporting the health and safety needs of the city that are addressed in this ordinance that's in front of you. Before I turn it over to Fire Marshal Lee, I want to point out and read into the record an amendment that has been made specifically to sections 8.140.030, subsection A, subsection 5, and 8.140.030, subsection B, subsection 5, related to hollow sidewalks, which now eliminate the word above and thereby prohibits unauthorized entry below the hollow sidewalks in J, K, and L streets within the city's downtown core. I will now turn it over to Fire Marshal Lee.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Jason Lee. I'm the Fire Marshal for the City of Sacramento. This afternoon's presentation is an overview of the proposed ordinance relating to the protection of critical infrastructure and wildfire risk areas. The purpose of this ordinance is to mitigate the threat of fire and other potential causes of destruction and damage to or interference with critical infrastructure in order to protect health, safety, welfare of the public. The proposed definition of critical infrastructure is property or facility, whether privately or publicly owned, that the city manager designates as being so vital and integral to the operation or functioning of a city that its damage, incapacity, disruption, or destruction would have a debilitating impact on public health, safety, and welfare. These areas may include, but are not limited to, levees, bridges, drainage systems, public utility buildings, telecommunication centers, data network centers, and buildings such as fire stations, police stations, and other government buildings. Also included are wildfire risk areas, defined as land that's covered with grass, grain, brush, or forest, whether privately or publicly owned, which is so situated or is of such an accessible location that a fire originating upon it would present an abnormally difficult job of suppression or would result in great or unusual damage through the fire or such areas designated by the fire code official. For context, this slide indicates a total fires related to camping and camping activities for a 6-month period from May to October of 2019. During this period, the city suffered over 1,000 fires. This is from a fire located at a Department of Utilities substation. The station suffered significant damage to pump controls and equipment, and it was determined to be the result of camping. This issue was found at a site underneath the RT Blue Line rail bridge located at Winters and Roseville Road. The photo shows an RV parked directly under the rail bridge. This is considered an eminent life safety issue as a fuel load and the size of the RV on fire would cause significant damage affecting the structural integrity of the bridge. In addition, the location is in a remote area and is a fire danger due to lack of fire department access for our vehicles, and the lack of a nearby fire hydrant would create a delay in suppressing a fire. Lastly, as shown on the slide, the foundation of this bridge has been compromised due to digging and tunneling from camping and camping-related activities. The following pictures are from levees and walled land risk areas showing damage caused by camping activities. The fires and damage to these areas can place the public in danger due to camping activities causing failures in critical infrastructure. The proposed ordinance would prohibit camping in the following areas: critical infrastructure, within 25 feet of critical infrastructure, and within 25 feet of an entrance or exit of critical infrastructure. Wildfire risk areas and portions of the right-of-way that are required by local, state, and federal law to be free of obstruction to first responders, and also within a hollow sidewalk. In conjunction with the proposed ordinance, we are in the process of creating district maps, as shown on the slide, outlaying specific areas that will be designated as critical infrastructure. Our plan is to create an overall map of designated areas for both critical infrastructure and wildfire risk areas, including levees, structures, and sites. These areas will have signage and placards installed for notification purposes, in most cases with exception to secured and sensitive infrastructure. With regards to enforcement, a violation of this section may be immediately abated by the city if it is deemed to be an imminent danger for life safety. Thank you for your consideration. I'll be available to answer any questions.
All right. I know we have a lot of public testimony on this item. I want to just frame a couple of things here, and I know we got Jeff Harris, Vice Mayor, and Mayor Pro Tem Ashby on the queue here. But so there are maps here that the fire marshal and the city attorney and the city manager's office have been working through and on. And I think a picture, you know, speaks 1,000 words, as they say. And I know the concern here, and we're going to hear it from the opposition, I'm sure. And frankly, it would be my concern as well. Whether or not this is an effort to do a clever workaround, the Boise decision, to basically say, well, Boise said that you can't, that you have to let people camp unless you provide beds, and of course, that is our mission here in the city. And so the concern would be, well, in the meantime, are you essentially using this critical infrastructure ordinance to say, we're gonna de facto ban camping under a different pretext? And so the maps are important because they tell a true picture of where would be restricted and where would not be restricted. And so I'd like to start the conversation here, please, with a citywide map and a description either by the fire marshal or the city attorney that describes what geography would be now prohibited from camping and what geography would not, and what percentage, if you will, of the overall city would not prohibit camping. That's really important because we're going to get off into, and it's probably going to happen no matter what, but we're going to get off into philosophical tangents here, which is okay. Everybody has the right to their say. But I want to focus it on whether or not camping, which I don't like, by the way, period. I want people indoors. But whether camping is prohibited in a de facto manner by virtue of this ordinance, or whether it would just be limited in a much narrower way, consistent with what you and the fire marshal described. Please
Yes,
tell us
Mayor.
about the maps.
In front of you here, or rather on the screen, and it's not going to cover the whole map, so I'll have to move it around a little bit, is a citywide map that depicts critical infrastructure. Now, it's important to remember that this is a prototype map. What I mean by that is it's an example of critical infrastructure located in the city. You'll see up on the map, the red indicates fire stations, some blue blocks indicates hospitals. I took a lesson in how to use this morning, so bear with me. Right around here in the brown is the levees. And let me, if it's all right, Mayor, this is citywide, but maybe it'd be more helpful.
I'd like you to start out citywide. You can break it down, and members may want to do that district by district, but I think just we have to start with what the intent here and the big picture in terms of what, even if you can't give an exact percentage, what overall percentage of the city would people still be able to camp, consistent with the Boise decision, even if we pass this ordinance?
So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here.
Okay?
That might be more helpful to see it up close. So ever since the Boise decision was issued by the Ninth Circuit, Ever since the Boise decision was issued by the Ninth Circuit on September 4th, 2018, we have been advising our police department and all our enforcement agencies and the city manager's office and the council as far as what we could do to address the impacts of unlawful camping throughout the city, and it was significantly curtailed. One thing that the Ninth Circuit did provide us in footnote 8 with some direction, which is in the event that the cities and other jurisdictions were able to adopt health and safety regulations that protected things such as infrastructure. So this ordinance is intended to surgically carve out critical infrastructure that if in fact they're debilitated in any way or hampered or access to, as you've seen the fire marshal's photographs, we had utility stations that had access hampered to them, fires caused by there. If they are to go down, then significant services to the city would be affected by them.
We know the reason. I want to know the geography. That's the key. What do these red dots, blue dots, orange dots represent and not represent?
Okay, so I need to go. Bigger. So the red dots are fire stations. Right. So being within 25 feet of a fire station and access to.
And describe with your finger even on the chart what 25 feet would represent from any of those red marks. I know it's small, but I want to get it on the record or not. Is it, because we're looking at a map here.
Right.
So is it, the red dot includes the 25 feet?
It does.
Okay.
Okay.
So anything that isn't, anything in the city within these yellow lines, which is the city boundary, that is not represented by a red dot, a blue dot, or what, an orange dot, is still allowable for camping, correct?
Correct. That's why it's easier to go to as close as we can, so you can see it better.
I'm sorry? The dashed lines represent levies, okay.
Right, so you can see the dashed lines along the side. You can see the 25 feet within that levee. That there are places along the levee that, or rather along the riverbed, that are actually not covered by the critical infrastructure because the 25 feet space is already indicated in the map.
So even along the levees.
Correct, on the river.
And the river, most of the area is still allowed for camping?
Yes, we would not, this ordinance would not cover that because it only covers protection of the critical infrastructure, which is the levee.
Okay. I know the members may want to bore into these questions, so to speak, a little bit more, but I wanted to just understand. Go ahead. Public testimony, please.
I have 21 speakers on this item, or 24, excuse me. The first is Mark Marin, then Kevin King, then Les Light.
Good afternoon, Mayor Steinberg
how are
and
you?
members of the City Council. I'm pleased to be able to take a first crack at this ordinance. But before I do that, I appreciate that what the mayor has said, and I want to just repeat to make sure that we all understand it, is that wherever camping is not prohibited as being either part of or next to critical infrastructure, that it is then permitted.
Unless people are engaged in illegal behavior or other behavior that violates other city codes. So thank you for allowing me to amend my statement. Go ahead.
That's a fantastic statement, and I applaud the council for recognizing that camping is now prohibited in most places within the city of Sacramento. That's excellent. Now, but I was a little surprised that the ordinance, which was originally proposed as essentially an urgency ordinance and going to avoid Law and Legislation Committee, came back essentially unchanged. So I think what I'm looking at today is the same one that was presented back on February 11th. And I'm just going to do a few, like a little issue spotting, and I'm not really going to be able to do a full critique. But everything depends upon the definition of critical infrastructure. That is not stated in this ordinance. Instead, critical infrastructure is defined to mean, and I'm referring to the definition, real property or facility, whether privately or publicly owned, that the city manager designates as being so vital and integral to the operation or functioning of the city that its damage, incapacity, disruption, or destruction would have a debilitating effect on the public health, safety, or welfare. Now, this ordinance hasn't been passed, so I assume the city manager has not designated critical infrastructure. And if he were to designate it critical infrastructure, what is the
Thank you for your
process?
comments. Your time is complete.
Mark.
I knew I couldn't do it.
No, I know. So, you know, you are a consistent spokesperson and advocate and a valued member, as everyone here is, of our community. I actually think hearing from you is a little bit important, but I wondered if there's 21 speakers, they're all.
No, I'm speaking.
I'm not asking you to not speak, Mr. Jefferson. Why would I deny you that opportunity? But any other members of your coalition, so to speak, in lieu of hearing from a few of them, I'd give you another couple of minutes because I think it's important to hear you, but not possible. Go ahead, next speaker. Thank you. I tried.
Thank you.
Never mind.
Next speaker is Kevin King, then Les Light, then Jan Krantz.
I'm trying.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this item. I'm Kevin King, General Manager of Reclamation District 1000. Reclamation District 1000 was formed in 1911 with the sole purpose of providing flood protection to the Natomas Basin, now home to over 100,000 residents. One of the primary ways that we provide that flood protection is by being able to monitor and inspect our levee infrastructure. We have 46 miles of exterior levee that protects the Natomas Basin from floods. We have significant concern with the concealment of the levee system with debris, tarps, tents that prevent us from achieving our core basic objective for levee protection. I cannot understate how important it is for us to be able to monitor and inspect our levee system every day from damage. Last year, we had over 81 encampments over a 6-mile stretch with significant damage. We were prevented with a heavy snowpack and likely high water elevations in the Sacramento River from being able to go in and proactively prevent damage from happening or even repairing damage that we were able to achieve or able to see because the levees are concealed. Daily, we have to move around encampments and other debris that prevent us from monitoring and inspecting that levee system. I just want to close with also asking the city council for support of this ordinance, but also individually, each council member to become familiar with AB 1958 and ask that the city, in addition to that, consider submitting a letter of support to Assembly Bill 1958, which further protects levee integrity and designates it as critical public infrastructure. Thank you for your time.
Mayor, if I could, to Kevin, please.
Yes, please.
First of all, while he's here, I want to ask whoever's appropriate, Lawn Ledge, city manager, to please consider AB 1958. This is really important. I spent the first 6 years of my time as a council member in Washington, D.C., fighting for over $1 billion to improve the levee system. Yeah, in Natomas, so that people would be safe, all the people, whoever's there. And this issue has really taken hold in some unsafe ways. Not only is it unsafe for the levees, but it is really unsafe for the people who are choosing these spots, because we also can't get to them. And they will tend to be in places where the water will rise, and we wouldn't be able to even know they were there until it was too late. And the items that get left behind cause extraordinary damage to the sump stations and just the critical infrastructure of flood safety. When you look at the map of District 1, it's really a tiny area. It's really just these levee ways and detention basins that don't mean much geographically on a map, but from a safety standpoint for the 110,000 people, which is roughly a fifth of our city, that live behind those critically engineered systems, this is extremely important. And people all throughout Natomas, Gardenland Northgate, South Natomas, River Oaks, North Natomas, they all pay a lot of money to continue to make those improvements, not only to RD 1000, but to SAFCA, the Sacramento Area Flood Control. We are still assessing ourselves to make those improvements, and we haven't hit the 100-year levels of protection yet. So everything that happens that degrades that system pulls us farther away from that 100-year level of protection that's protecting all those schools and children and families and people and anyone that's in that basin. So I want to thank you, Kevin, for your leadership on this, and I want to thank you for AB 1958. I had a few concerns about today's ordinance around sidewalks and things, but I really hope that everyone can get behind the idea that those billion-dollar levees and infrastructure systems that are protecting everyone, we can't afford to build them twice. We can barely afford to do it once, and they're keeping everyone safe. We really need to protect them, and I appreciate all the work that RD 1000 is doing to try very hard to do the flood protection work that you're charged with for all the folks out there on a very small budget. So thank you for that, and thank you for everyone here today that has, I noticed a theme in most of the letters that people who had concerns did say, but I do understand the levy issue, and I just want to say I really appreciate that, because it is very hard to get the funding for that type of infrastructure and then to maintain it. So thank you, Kevin, very much.
Any other questions? Good? Thanks.
Les Light, then John Krantz.
So, given the really sudden rollout of this ordinance, and given the history of the way the city has dealt with the homeless issue, you have to understand why we're so suspicious of the way this comes. From initial scrutiny, it just seems in rational terms, the law proposed here is a display of ugly and imbecilic bigotry against people struggling with extreme poverty. Ostensibly, this is concerned with protecting earthen levees, but then the proposed ordinance immediately mandates displacing unhoused people from broadly termed infrastructure sites like cement structured bridges, overpasses, and drainage channels, etc. And adjacencies to utility sites that can't possibly actually be threatened by unhoused people. This proposed ordinance then comes off as a bald-faced civic fraud. This ordinance is clumsily thrown together list of sites and adjacencies serves only, it seems, for your crazed, frantic effort to loophole the Martin Boise ruling out of existence while you continue to violate it. Now, camping near fire stations and police stations, I find no instance of a station damaged or in any way obstructed by the unhoused. This law seems to be only about setting a specious legal pretext, as you noted, to further your strange obsession with displacing, harassing, and physically persecuting the unhoused. Your housing policy unhouses more and more people, and yet you obviously hate the unhoused you've made unhoused, and you hate the sight of them. You seem to think that by constantly displacing them and keeping them harassed and as miserable as possible, you'll make them disappear. This law comes off as
Thank you for
an
your
ugly
comments. Your
act
time is
with
complete.
ugly motives. Now, a woman
Thank
we
you,
knew
Mr.
as
Light.
Vanessa was savagely beaten, tortured, sexually assaulted.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Our next speaker is John Krantz, then Zoe M. Kipling.
Get the next speaker, please.
And she was displaced for a relatively safe space.
Mr. Light, your time is up.
Mr. Light.
And I want to know, what is your part in Vanessa's humiliation, ordeal, and murder?
Mr. Light, your time is complete. Please take your seat.
And how many people?
Mr. Light, please take your seat.
Of their most basic humanity and fear
What's the
of life.
admonition was supposed to say? He's dead.
Next speaker is John Krantz, then Zoe Kipling.
Good evening. Well, I've been coming down to talk to you for about 10 years now, and I think I heard something here which, did you actually say that there's going to be places that people can camp? Is that what I just heard? If it is, I think that's more progress than I've heard in 10 years. As far as this ordinance goes, it's got a lot of stick in it, and we need more carrots, is what we need. Now, the idea of people camping around the city, I don't think this is a bad idea. I think it is necessary to put proper sanitary facilities in these areas, just for simple health and safety. I think it's necessary to try to make an alternative to doing this thing on the levee. Maybe if we induce people to come to one of these camps that has proper facilities for sanitation, for water, for sewage, for even a shower maybe, although that's really reaching for the sky. If we didn't get to shower, I could live without that one. But I would really, I don't know, you threw a curveball at me, and I don't know what to do with that exactly when you say that you actually are going to entertain the idea of people camping in the city and not making them criminals. We all know that if we make them criminals, it just drives them deeper into homelessness. And when we do things to punish people, then they start getting sneaky. And this is what causes the fires. I've seen people trying to build fires underneath a tree during a drought, when the tree is all ready to go up anyhow. And these cottonwoods out here on the river, they can go up like a Roman candle. The inside of that tree is pure. So I guess all I'm saying here is, let's not make an incubator for lawsuits. We don't need that. That kind of money could be better spent trying to do real solutions that will put an end to this confrontational attitude.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Zoe M. Kipping, then Robert Copeland.
Good afternoon, members of the City Council. My name is Zoe Kipping. I'm a millennial and renter and voter in the district. I've lived here for 8 years on the grid in District 4. Now, I grew up in the foothills of El Dorado County, deep in the heart of fire country. Every year, the hill across the valley from my mother's home in Lotus burned like clockwork. We had a saying that it wasn't summer until Mount Murphy was on flames. As well, my senior year of high school was the Angora fire in 2007, which led to 3,000 of my peers being evacuated, 280 buildings burned, and 3,000 acres burned, mainly in the El Dorado National Forest. Had the wind changed direction, my father's home would have been devastatedly burned. Pollock Pines, Camino, and Placerville would have gone the way of paradise. My town, Coloma, was also devastated by the great flood of El Nino in 1997, so I volunteered cleaning up Camp Lotus for 2 years of my time as, under the age of 10. So I'm here today because I find Ordinance 8.140 to be personally offensive as a wildfire and flooding survivor. To use wildfire risk area and flood risk to the levees as the vehicle for which the anti-camping ordinance brings itself to the forefront once again. This ordinance runs in direct opposition to all of your current and former campaign promises as stated in debates, endorsement interviews to the press, and your voluminous mailers where you say you are bringing solutions to homelessness. This is the anti-camping ordinance on steroids. And the fact that it falls after your losing amicus brief to Martin v. Boise adds insult to injury. You have in there that camping is defined as your previous city ordinance, and I take issue specifically with the dangerously loose definitions of critical infrastructure and wildfire risk areas because they are set by the unelected city manager on an ad hoc basis so that whatever he deems as critical infrastructure or as wildfire risk area, therefore it is. I don't understand why we approach it from this direction. We're doing this in the dumb way, where you're going to be sued by organizations.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete.
Housing and
Thank you for your
bathrooms
comments. Our next
would be
speaker is
appropriate.
Robert Copeland, then Paula Lamazzi.
The previous speaker said a lot that I was thinking of. Why are you doing this? Come up with a real solution to really help the homeless population. This ordinance is going to push people right back into the neighborhoods. Are you hearing this, City Council? They're going to push them into the neighborhoods. How many people are homeless on the levee system in Sacramento? Come up with a real solution when you first became city council members, not now, not when you got elections coming up. I find this rather ridiculous, so that's the reason why I'm not voting anybody up on the dais. You don't have a real solution. You're going to hurt people. I agree, we do need to fix the levee system. But this is not the right way to do it. Come up with a real plan. As my friend John Krantz tells me, safe ground. Thank you.
Next speaker is Paula Lamazzi, then Janet Fricky.
Hi, good afternoon. Sacramento Homeless Organizing Committee opposes this ordinance in its entirety. There are ways to protect important infrastructure without criminalizing homeless people and trying to reenact the pre-Boise versus Martin camping ban. So I was concerned about the wildfire risk areas that could be determined to be about anywhere. And this assumes that people living in an area that provides visibility cover are all causing fires, but you know, this isn't true. And there is a few people that might be unsafe with fire, and that should not be allowed. But relationships need to be developed, and safety education is needed, and adequate, appropriate options need to be offered, without which it's still cruel and unusual punishment. So the real solution has always been and still is housing, so let's do that instead.
Thank you, Paula.
Next speaker is Janet Fricky, then Daniel Adderholt.
Hi. I hope that some of us can agree that all of this could have been prevented if safe ground had been designated and shelters in place. This kind of stuff is going to continue until there really is designated area. I just heard somebody say that no, you can camp in Sacramento. When was the anti-camping ordinance repealed? When was the portions of 17 that says that you cannot have a temporary shelter within 500 feet of a church, place of worship, and other things? There are churches that want to open their doors. I've just spent 3 months in different churches, each month rotating, in a city that doesn't have an anti-camping ordinance. Let's get real. Absolutely, we do not want our infrastructures to be hurt. We need to have real, not just talking about, yeah, they can camp in anywhere except for, no, they can't. If they're not breaking the law. They're breaking the law due to the anti-camping ordinance and some other things. Anyway, I'm just very upset. Please, there's lots of property that the city owns that's vacant. There are empty buildings. I know this 3 months is one of the hardest 3 months I've ever done, being in the shelter, working with the people, physically, mentally ill, drug addicts. I know it's not easy. It can be done. We just have to get together. So let's not say, yeah, it's
Thank you for your
okay to
comments. Your
stay
time is
anywhere else.
complete.
It's not.
Next speaker is Daniel Adderholt, then William Mercer.
Hello, City Council. My name is Dan Adderholt. I'm Executive Board Member for City of Natomas, NCA, and I'm a founder and leader of American River Homeless Crew and head of the Homeless Committee of Natomas. I am very appalled by what I've been hearing, and I'm finding it very outraged. It's very outrageous how our City Council can sit there and make rules attack the American River Homeless Crew on the American River, make them leave when they're the ones that cleaned and saved the American River 4 years ago when nobody had money to save it. Park and Recreation, nobody else had money to save it. And we've been cleaning every day since, and we got our community and everybody else helping us together. And I also found out by our Sacramento Police Department that there ain't gonna be even allowed even on the parkway, period, not past the 20 feet, 25 feet, wherever you guys are saying from the water. They're saying it's gonna be all of the American River Parkway, and that really makes me mad, because that's a direct violation of Boise versus Martin Supreme Court ruling and the civil rights matter. And this should not be happening. And I just found out you guys are making it where the homeless can't sleep here at City Hall, too. I've just been informed that, too, by the Sacramento Police Department. They said, you guys doing that. If that's true, this is out of control. We should be working together, not against each other. RD 1000, me and my American River Homeless Crews have worked with them and saving Steelhead Creek. My American River Homeless Crews have been working with our county workers. They love working with us. Why can't you guys get on board? Our community is working with us. Why can't you guys get on board and stop this foolishness of attacking the homeless on the American River? Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is William Mercer, and then Audrey Sorber, and then Bob Erlenbush.
I live out there. What you do this to us? That's weird bullshit.
Next speaker is Audrey Sorber, then Bob Erlenbush.
Okay. Just have to tell us, and she'll pronounce your name correctly.
I did. That's what I did.
Thank
I
you.
told you.
Thank you.
My name's Audrey Sarber. This podium is not ADA compliant, by the way. I'm here speaking on behalf of Advocacy for All. This podium, its entire process is unnecessarily intimidating to the public. And since everyone else said what I really wanted to say about needed changes, I want to focus on that. This whole process, the fact that you're even going to vote on this today without giving the public the proper maps, without any kind of clear, you just put this on the agenda. You can't vote on this. It's the enforcement aspect. I'll stick with that. The enforcement aspect. Thank you, Marshall, by the way. I would like to also preserve levees. We all need a safe place to be. We don't want to get flooded out. I live downtown. I live in a flood zone. 100,000 people live in Natomas. I've lived there once. It's beautiful. But the enforcement aspect of asking people to just come off the levee without them having anywhere to go, and we've been asking for months and years to have safe grounds and to have temporary shelters. Preserving critical infrastructure is a wonderful idea. That's our main function, right? But shelter and safe campgrounds with sanitation and hygiene, you know, a shower is a lot to ask, right? But just basic sanitation, that is infrastructure. Believe it or not, giving your citizens a place to live is infrastructure, and continually moving them around and saying, you ma'am, you sir, oh, it's okay if you're disabled or a youth or, you know, elder, you have to keep moving. In some way, folks, we are actually complicit and aiding and abetting in human trafficking, elder abuse, and child neglect. And our attitude and policies towards the homeless are so egregious that they're basically like against every human rights, you know, coalition that's ever been in existence. It's against the UN, you know, human rights standards. And we really need to do something, whether it's temporary, semi-permanent housing, those things
Thank
are
you for your
infrastructure.
comments. Your time is
That's the
complete.
infrastructure that I want to see.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Our
Thank
next
you.
speaker is Bob
I live in District
Erlenbush
4, by
and
the
then
way.
Jermar Jefferson.
My name's Audrey.
Thank you for your
Katie
comments. Your
Valenzuela
time
for
is
District 4.
complete. Our next speaker is Bob Erlenbush.
Inappropriate in the chambers. We campaign outside the chambers, not inside. Thank you, Mr. Erlenbush.
Good afternoon, Bob Erlenbush, Executive Director of the Sacramento Regional Coalition to End Homelessness. Mayor, I appreciate the way that you framed your comments in the beginning. Is this really a work around Boise? The logic.
I don't think it is, but I wanted to raise the question.
I appreciated the way you framed it. I happen to think that it is. Specifically, the logic of Boise was that if you do not have enough shelter, you cannot continue to criminalize people. The logic of Boise was not to comb through every freaking footnote to see if you can figure out a way to get around it. Nevertheless, some of your staff have. So for three reasons, I think this needs a lot more specificity and clarity. Critical infrastructure, as you've heard over and over again, the wording is overly broad. It, quote, the ordinance may include, but not limited to, and then there's a whole government buildings and a whole laundry list of things. But ultimately, like Mark said, it's what the city manager says that it is, which could be almost anything. So it needs more specificity. Number two, it states that in the transmittal that it's geographically limited. But never going back to the point that there's a whole laundry list of things, there are not nearly enough dots on that map. This needs to go back to law and ledge so you can understand how many dots would be on that map if you put the whole laundry list of things, including anything that Mr. Chan can think of. And what's particularly scary around the civil rights issue is vacate without notice. So homeless people have no idea if they were camping on or near quote-unquote critical infrastructure until after the fact, until their stuff is gone. That would be like going to work, coming home, having all your furniture out on the curb, and then realizing that you had an eviction notice after you got home from, well, that's what it says.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Our next speaker is
Ms. Ashby,
Jermar
but it does.
Jefferson.
We need,
Next
if you're
speaker
gonna,
is
if you're
Jermar
gonna do this,
Jefferson.
if you're gonna do this, then you need to.
Our next speaker is Jermar Jefferson, then Vivian Gerlach.
Jefferson.
Good afternoon. Yeah, thank you for your love and your protection, because we're living in evil times right now. So another moment of silence. So, 4 years, no results, only reasons for failure for the results needed. 327 million Americans live in our country. 123 million live directly to a shoreline. History teaches us people live close to the water. The city manager said we need to surgically carve out a place for these people to camp. It's nice when you make over $200,000 and you get a choice. Lance Park is legal. East Sac is legal. Camp there. Camping is legal in most places except where prohibited by this new measure they're about to pass. Universal Declaration of Human Rights Preamble says that human rights should be protected by the rule of law. You're breaking it the moment you pass this. Are these levees about to break is the question. She's alluding to that the levees are about to break. Is this the next New Orleans? Rumors are going around that Loaves and Fishes is relocating to Del Paso Boulevard. District 2 is about to become the new home for all the homeless. Is that what's about to happen in District 2? Loaves and Fishes, Del Paso Heights. So there's no services prepared for the people to come to District 2. And each and every last one of your other districts, you ain't said one word. Shame on you, brother man. Shame on you, Hispanic man. Shame on you, Mr. Chanel. I'm calling you out. Each and every last one of you. And it's the people's fault if these criminals are elected, because 4 years Steinberg promised with the Measure U money, and we ain't got no results. Only reason for failure. I got 14 more seconds. Failure. Failure, failure, failure. Failure. I'm glad you leaving. You need to get reelected. I hope Eric beat you. You need to get reelected. Oh, I'm going to beat you. Failure, failure. And I'm firing everybody.
Thank you
We
for
have
your
to start
comments. Your
all
time
over.
is
Get
complete.
these criminals out of
Time's
office.
out. Go take it outside. Go take it outside the chamber, Mr. Jefferson.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. The next speaker is Vivian Gerlach. Next speaker is Vivian Gerlach, and then Crystal Sanchez.
Next.
Vivian Gerlach. Oh.
Don't give him the publicity. Next. Go call
Vivian
her name.
Gerlach.
Vivian Gerlach, please. Vivian, come on up.
Thank you. Following Vivian is Crystal Sanchez.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Vivian Gerlach. I'm here for Preservation Sacramento. Their president, William Berg, couldn't be here today, and he did send you a letter yesterday. So Preservation Sacramento is deeply troubled at the inclusion of the hollow sidewalk language in the ordinance. The hollow sidewalks are not critical infrastructure nor a fire risk, and your own staff have confirmed that. Now, while I will thank the mayor for removing the word above the sidewalks, we are still requesting that all language relative to hollow sidewalks be removed from this ordinance. The ordinance discriminates against disadvantaged people using historic resources as an excuse to forbid their presence in these spaces, and yet these same resources are declared no longer eligible as historic resources when developers build new projects that destroy them. So the question is, which is it? Are they critical resources or are they not? So Preservation Sacramento's predecessor, the Sacramento Old City Association, paid for the 2009 survey that is referenced in the staff report and is extremely uncomfortable with our efforts being misused, or what we perceive being misused in this way. And we insist that all references to hollow sidewalks be removed. Also, the survey is out of date, and the lack of detail related to interpretive signage or an educational program related to hollow sidewalks reinforces the case that what it really looks like, at least from appearances, is an end run of the Boise decision. And the areas under the street are already private property. Those areas in the hollow sidewalks, those are private property. Anyone down there is still trespassing. You already have the enforcement mechanisms in place to enforce people not being there. You do not need this ordinance to do that. So, and I was on the board, and that's Preservation Sacramento's comment. Mine is, I was on the board of the Old City Association when we funded this study. At no point, had we known that it would be used in this way, we would have never funded that study, and we would have never given you access to this information. So thank you.
Our next speaker is Crystal Sanchez, then Donald Wright.
Can I please have the people stand behind me who are from the districts that are unhoused that this is going to affect? So we have different districts here. We keep coming with you guys. You guys are affecting these people. Yes, we are very concerned about the levies as well. We have had multiple deaths because you guys will not listen. Even recently, a homicide, broken arms, broken neck, sodomized, death, a union council member. You guys want to put this into place. Do you know what's gonna happen? They're gonna get swept right back into your neighborhoods, right back into all of your districts, right back in front of all your businesses. For what? So they can call 311, call the police department, call the fire department, and it's gonna be this vicious circle. We've come to you with 21 demands with the union, which would solve tons of these problems. We're asking that you come up with a short-term idea, safe ground. This lady right here, Betty, she's written a whole book with rules, more rules than I would live by. We're asking that you come and you educate, because they're not gonna be able to move from the levees. There's 11,000 people. You wanna look at your pit count, it tells you 11,000 people on any given night. 700 of those are children on the river bottoms. If you continue to criminalize these people, you're facing lawsuits. Why are we wasting money on not solutions, but lawsuits, investigations, research? Why are we doing this? I'm tired of the loopholes with Martin versus Boise. These people have nothing that protects them. You guys protect your constituents, except for those that are unhoused. You guys need to quit working this against Martin versus Boise and come up with solutions. Allow the union to help you guys. We are on the ground. The union members are made up of these people that are at the river and all these other places, and the advocates. And we have been preaching to you guys and trying to get your help. We do not want to have to continue to sue you guys, but we will. Marysville
Thank you for your
just did
comments.
it.
Your time is complete. Our next speaker is Donald Wright. Donald Wright, then Betty Rios, then Waverly Hampton.
First of all, I want you to address me as I am. I am Pastor Donald Wright. So I want you to address me as I am, whoever did.
Thank you,
because
Pastor Wright.
I know you don't want me to come up here and address you as Daryl. So, thank you.
Pastor Wright, welcome to you, sir.
Let me just first say, because I've been sitting here and listening to everyone come up here and address, why is it a war between this council and the mayor and people? It seems to me that you have forgotten that these are people. They are people. So if you take them off of the levy, so since this proposal that I just read says something about the infrastructural damage that's taking place on the levy because of the people being there and the fire, how is it that you could come up with an ordinance to move these people where? Where will we move these people? How will we move these people? And if this is the case, how come we haven't come up with a place with all of these geniuses, minds in here? We don't have a place that we could put these people and these children. We're just gonna throw them away. You wanna bulldoze their stuff. Now they have nothing, no tents, no blankets, no food, no anything. And then you want to put them in jail for trespassing or being wherever you say you don't want them, but you don't have a place to put them. I just don't believe that makes, to me, no sense whatsoever that we could have millions of dollars. She talked about spending billions of dollars on the levy, and we can't spend any to house some people in this Sacramento. That makes no sense, and you know it doesn't make any sense. So then we would have to ask, where is the money? Where is the money? Because if there's money, where is it and why can't we house these people?
Thank you for your
people
comments.
have
Your
a
time
good
is
day.
complete.
But you need to think about
Thank you for
what
your
we're
comments.
doing.
Your
I
time
heard
is
you.
complete. The next speaker is Betty Rios. Next speaker is Betty Rios, then Waverly Hampton III.
Hi, my name is Betty Rios. I'm from Stockton's Camp. My arm was broken by the police officers that was supposed to protect me, and now I'm on Morrison Creek. Where am I supposed to go now? I went to you guys' program. The program, after I got my income and had the money to rent a place, I got kicked out because there was no housing to go to. So you're saying we have to move from the levy? There's two places right where I'm at that is city-owned. Can we go there? Because my rubric that is going, I wrote and put together, the people are listening to it and they're following it. Right now, I have 30 people that already done its case plans for. They're getting their IDs, they got their resumes done, they're looking for work right now. So you guys can't say that we're not lazy, because we're not. We're trying to do what we can. But when you get under, when you come homeless, they take your IDs, your social security cards. You don't have nothing no more. So what are we supposed to do? We have no mailboxes to get a new ID. We have nothing for a social security card. We can't get a job to come up out of it. So you guys tell me, what are we supposed to do now?
Next speaker is Waverly Hampton III, then Slew Lockwood.
Good afternoon to all of you. I think a lot's been said that I don't think I have the expertise to add on to. I agree with the mayor when he said that the public should be hearing more from Mr. Mark Marin. So I'd like to cede the rest of my time to him.
You can't do it.
I can't do it?
Please.
Okay. Well, I recommend the council, well, I encourage the council to review the ordinance because I believe the issues that the public is having with it are legal related. I agree with the effort to protect critical infrastructure. And I want to remind everyone that we're all on the same side here. I sense that everybody's passionate about the homeless issue, and it's a complex issue. And it is election time, and so people tend to pick sides during this time. But I'm sitting here and I'm listening, and I'm like, we all live in the same city. We should all work together, and I think we have the means and the capacity to do that. So thank you for your time. And I invite the council to work with the Sacramento Homeless Union and to speak with the unhoused community, because I have, and just getting their perspective does give you some enlightenment on issues that are important to them and what we can do to actually help them immediately and not just temporary fixes. So yeah, it's It's rough, and I want to commend you all for sitting there and taking the abuse. And I don't think that you're criminals. I'll say that. I'll let the record show that, because criminals don't sit there and spend their time trying to help people. I think you all are earnest, and I think we're all, like, I want to remind everyone we're all on the same side. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Waverly, for coming to. Thank you, sir.
My next speaker is Sue Lockwood. Following Ms. Lockwood is Karen Conrad.
Here's your answer, my friend, and it's not blowing in the wind. All the firemen and cops in here know I spoke to them already. They said it's a good idea, Sue. I said they won't do it. They didn't do it. I handed it in a long time ago. They lost it. Here it is again. All homeless will be housed in 1/2 day. All environmental concerns will be covered. What could it be? Fire camp. Anybody ever toured one? All environmental concerns are covered. More than covered. More than covered. Just ask around. I am a retired logistics manager, base camp manager, human resource specialist. I am retired but knowledgeable, and I'm working this summer for $45 an hour on straight time, $70 on time and a half, because they have to pay union wages. So now I can have a good retirement because I didn't get paid when I worked for real. Dispatch certified, radio communication operator. Oh God, it goes on and on. I started as a driver. I said, this camp sucks, so they put me in charge of camp in 2 years. Cell phones direct to the mayor will be established. King Radio, satellite radio, you will have constant. All of you guys in the white and the blue and the black and the whatever will have a King Radio. Click, click, you can listen to everything. You'll know what's going on. When we say we need help, we'll get it. No more 19 dead people in a gully. This is an emergency also. Communication, communication, communication.
You have 10
All right,
seconds, ma'am.
what do I have left? Why not do it? Opportunity to boost local food. Food, drink. If you don't want the trucks to come in and feed them gourmet meals, let the city feed them. You do the Friday night rock
Thank you for your
music.
comments. Your time is complete.
All right, well,
thank you for your
talk to
comments.
me.
Your time is complete.
Here's the answer.
Our
Do
next
it.
speaker is Karen Conrad, then Simon Antil.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I didn't plan on coming here to talk today, but I put my name in because I knew it was a topic that meant something to me, and here I am. So I am a little intimidated, so I apologize.
Don't be.
Only because I'm public speaking.
Just relax. You're fine.
I own a home in Sacramento along the levee that protects my home and all my possessions. And I lead a business that is also along the levee in Natomas. And I think there's a couple of things here today that are important. This measure, I believe I'm supporting this ordinance. I believe that it is for the health, safety, and wellness for all of your people in your districts, which includes all of us who aren't campers. And I heard a couple things. There's 1,000 potential campers every evening. There are many more who live in homes and other places in your districts and communities who will be losing their homes and potentially homeless if these levees break. There's also, I heard, 1,000 fires over a short period of time. And if we have a fire in our business and the firemen are out dealing with these fires for campers, they're unable to protect those people in our homes, in our areas, and we will become homeless as well. So I believe that this ordinance is important and critical. It doesn't mean we shouldn't support our homeless and find other mechanisms to put them in places and provide them with the care they need if they have mental illness and provide them places to be safe. I don't think that's a one or the other. But I do believe if you're protecting all your citizens, not just the 11,000 a night, and all the people who have businesses, that this is critical to the safety and the health and welfare of all of the citizens in this district and all of the districts around. So thank you for your time and everything you do.
Next speaker is Simon Antil, and then Anthony Prince Esquire.
Mayor, City Council members. My name is Simon Antil. I am past Commodore of the Sacramento Yacht Club, and I came today just to shed a little bit of light looking at this from the water side. I know RD The RD district is here today. The levy situation in this city is fragile, beyond fragile. We were out this weekend. We took a boat trip to look at the state of the levee. The colossal volume of garbage along the riverbanks is insane. It's comparable to a landfill. We witnessed 4 different fires burning up the American River Parkway, 4 in 4 different locations. With my relationship with the water and the boating community, we have been through some serious high water and flood situations. We've been there when those levee systems have been a break or a failure system. It's catastrophic. We need a solution. We need your help. Thank you.
Next speaker is Anthony Prince, then Bridget Duffy.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Prince. I'm the General Counsel for the California Homeless Union. I came out today to support our local union here in Sacramento, the press conference and action that they had in their participation in today's City Council meeting. I think previous speakers have already laid out quite clearly what appeared to me to be pretty obvious, both facially and as applied constitutional infirmities of this proposed ordinance. I think we appear before city councils. I think the value is not too much more than to put you on notice as to these deficiencies so that later, when either a court or in some manner this issue is adjudicated, it can't be said that you weren't put on notice as to the constitutional problems with what you're about to do. You know, I read in the paper that the assistant city manager referenced the Paradise Fire in citing to the necessity or alleged necessity for this ordinance. He didn't want to see a fire along these critical infrastructures that could possibly create another Paradise Fire, another campfire. But the campfire was not caused by homeless people trying to fire up a little cook stove. It was caused by Pacific Gas and Electric. Pacific Gas and Electric took responsibility publicly after CAL FIRE found them liable for the campfire and the Tubbs fire. And in 2010, they were convicted in a criminal court for defrauding, for fraud and for failing to monitor the pipeline that led to the death of 8 people in San Bruno and the loss of 28 homes. Of course, the Camp Fire was the deadliest fire in California history, and that organization, PG&E, is still under probation and court supervision. But I don't see the city of Sacramento objecting to the continued status of PG&E, which is now trying to protect itself from liability in the bankruptcy courts. So it seems to me that if you're homeless—
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete.
No,
My next speaker is Bridget Duffy,
I hope
then
you got
Mac
my point
Elworthy.
here, so let's be consistent.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bridget Duffy, then Mac Worthy is our final speaker.
Hello again. I wrote a poem. For people of your class, that is to say upper, to pass laws that make less fortunate people suffer illustrates precisely why our forefathers felt willing to die to free their prodigy from remaining forever under your thumb. For people such as yourselves who have mortgages, not rents, mortgages. You don't face eviction. You don't face landlord greed. You sleep every night, right through the night, right? Barely wake up refreshed, go to work. There's a bathroom right next to you, so you know where you're gonna go to the bathroom in the morning, right? There's garbage services, picking up your garbage every week, right? You're paid with taxpayer money, quite a bit of it. You are in a different class than we are. You don't deserve to be in seats of power in the United States of America. This is not representative, but that's changing. But until it changes, the audacity you people have to spend taxpayer money further criminalizing, further causing harm to American citizens. It's causing death. It's causing mental illness. You are causing a safety and health hazard to the public by not putting these people into permanent housing.
Thank
We
you
have
for your comments. Your
abandoned
time is
buildings
complete.
everywhere.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. And our next speaker is Mac Worthy.
Do not wait for these people to give us anything. Take
Thank you
the
for your
building.
comments. Please have your seat.
Take them.
They already fixed them.
Live in them.
Mac Worthy.
Wait for them to evict
China
you
and
from
Russia
them.
are paying for it. The city's not paying for all this instant renewal.
We've had enough of this. House people.
I tried to call what I said, what I see, and I had said I wasn't going to speak to this, but somebody is misusing something here that they shouldn't be done. And that coming out of Long Ledge. That's coming directly out of Long Ledge. How did this get back to agendized? You are pinning the fire department against the people the same way you're pinning the police department against the people. That's what you're doing with this. The levee will never collapse by a fire, people. The levee, you don't even have no water. So how it gonna happen? These firemen need more money to retire. And here you want them to say, oh, well, we're gonna go there because of fire. You know those people out there. You could have a light patrol in there with a bucket of water if you see a fire. They can put that river there, dip the shit in and put the fire out. Don't use them. If you want to make money, people, who studied the motor vehicle code? The motor vehicle code say every car should be 18 inches from the curb. Give me some tickets. I can write you $5 million a day.
That's right.
If you want money. Vehicle code says 18 inches from the curb. How many cars is not 18 inches from the curb? 90% of them. But you don't want to go professional. You want to put pressure on these people, and it don't make sense. You have pinned the police department against me. Now you want to disgrace the fire department. Fire department comes and pick up people when they're sick. You got an ambulance service in there. And you're going to have these people here in that chaos. People, put this thing away because it's Long Ledge's problem. Put it back away and go back and study what you got because you cannot be an attorney in Long Ledge. Understand that, Beverly. There's only one attorney up there can law. Cut it off.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Vice Mayor Harris, I have no more speakers.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are you back?
I am back.
Okay.
But thank you. You're first, so you can.
All right. Well, I'll just carry on a bit here. You know, I'd like to thank all the speakers for coming out, and I'm sure our mayor would do the same. Obviously, emotions run high whenever we get to a homeless issue. This is important to me that we don't conflate two problems because protecting our infrastructure and dealing with the homeless, creating opportunities for them to get into housing or safe ground or whatever, not mutually exclusive. I represent District 3, and in District 3, the American River Parkway bisects my district. So I have South Natomas, Gardenland, Northgate at the top, East Sac, and the rail yards, the River District to the south. I have many miles of levees. Additionally, I've been the chair of our flood control district a couple of times and have spent much of my time as a councilman representing you and the citywide to try to bring federal funds into the area to refurbish our levees. Flood risk in Sacramento is a very real thing. It's a very real thing, and although we are rebuilding our levees currently, that work is not done, and we won't achieve a very substantial freedom from flood risk until about the year 2025. In the meantime, if we have a wet year, we are all at risk. And if there were to be a levee breach in this city, the entire city would be brought down to its knees. People would lose their lives, many would lose their homes. And this applies to housed and unhoused people. You know, if you're living outdoors, you're very vulnerable. You're actually more vulnerable to fire and more vulnerable to flood than those people who are housed. And I can tell you from very personal experience that the homeless incursions into the levee didn't happen by accident. There are people out there digging deeply into our levees and creating substantial flood risk to the entire population of this city, and we have to address that. Just as we have to address the needs of the homeless and try to get them into housing, which in our way we are doing. Now, you might not agree with exactly how we do it or how quickly we do it or what resources we spend on it, but I certainly feel that we're making an earnest effort. If we adopt this ordinance, could it mean that some homeless people would be displaced into our neighborhoods? It does mean that. It's possible. I don't see that necessarily as a bad thing because, as the mayor pointed out, any place that is not protected by this ordinance is protected by the Martin-Boise decision. We are not trying to criminalize homelessness with this ordinance. So I know that some of you express that presumption, but I think that it's false. You know, the idea of safe ground, Mark Maron has brought this up for years. I'm certainly not averse to that idea, but I have seen safe ground in operations, and it creates its own certain set of problems. It's a temporary stopgap solution. It's not housing people, creates some semblance of safety for a short period of time and some sanitation. Those are good effects, but it's not a permanent solution. We are trying to invest in a lot of triage transitional shelter, and we are doing the best we can, I believe, as a city in trying to create a housing trust fund so that we can subsidize more affordable housing and deal with this problem. It's a big problem. It's not solved quickly or easily. I would certainly be amenable to something like the Modesto Outdoor Emergency Shelter if we find that we are displacing people and they have no place to go, because I've been trying to get sanitation for the homeless for a long time. So those are things that we may have to tackle, but first and foremost, I can tell you that of these 1,000 fires, many have been in District 3. And a couple of years ago, we had a 200-acre fire on the American River Parkway. Who do you think that it hurt the most? It hurt the homeless people the most. You know, these are real issues that demand real solutions. And this is just one piece of the puzzle. And I have to tell you that adopting this ordinance is not about criminalizing the homeless. It's about keeping everybody in this city safe. And that's why—
Excuse me, you don't shout.
You know, you can disagree with me, but this is my time to speak, and you all have had plenty of time to speak. You've been at it for an hour. So this needs to move forward. This absolutely must be adopted, in my opinion. Additionally, we have to redouble our efforts to house the homeless. And the mayor has actually proposed statewide that we make it a mandate to house the homeless, because only with a mandate is every jurisdiction going to do its part. I support him in that effort. It's a bold idea, and I don't think you're all giving the credit to a person here who is really out there trying to fight for the homeless. These things don't happen quickly. This is state law. This is a big, bold proposal. If it's instated, we probably won't need Martin-Boise anymore because we would be mandated to house the homeless, and I think it's a great idea. You know, since I've been in office, homeless have set fires, just cooking, trying to eat, trying to live. I get that, but you know, they set fire to pipeworks in my district, in the River District, almost set, a big business on fire. There have been many fires that I could allude to started by homeless campers. It's a problem. You know, just living outdoors is difficult and it's a problem. And it is our mandate to get people indoors and to create housing. You're all correct about that. There's no dispute about that. At the same time, we really do have to correct our critical infrastructure because the consequences are just too high. Everybody loses, including the homeless, if we have a flood or a catastrophic fire. Again, during my tenure, during the Camp Fire, there was a homeless set fire in Glen Hall Park, well, just outside in Paradise Beach. Happily, our first responders came in force with bulldozers and numerous engines from numerous jurisdictions, and kept those super dry conditions from engulfing a lot of housing in the city. You know, these aren't insignificant issues. They are related, but we have to attack all of these issues at the same time. You know, I think that I've made my point. I really think that this is an important ordinance, and Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the item.
Thank you, sir. It has been moved. Before I, thank you, Vice Mayor, before I turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Ashby, Councilmember Ashby, I want to hone in myself on a substantive point. I'm going to save my closing reasons for why I support this to the end, but I want to clean something up here. So this is, and it is to refer people to 8.140020, the definitions, including the definitions of critical infrastructure, which designates to the city manager the unilateral authority to determine what is critical infrastructure and what is not. So, I have complete faith in this city manager. You can leave. You really can.
Came at the end just to laugh at you, bro.
Okay. I have complete faith in this city manager to always do the fair and right thing. But when we write these ordinances, it isn't about how much faith I or any of us have in any particular individual. Because the law stands, and there could be a city manager someday that maybe views the world different and wouldn't be as fair. So getting the language right is absolutely correct. And I see a bit of a problem here, and I want to correct it for purposes of going forward here today. I think we need to ensure that this ordinance goes into full effect when it comes to our levies right away. But for every other piece of this that the city manager might designate as being critical infrastructure, I do not want that to go into effect until the manager comes back with an actual list of critical infrastructure that will circumscribe the ordinance in the right way. I think that's right, and that's fair. And I think it also protects us from potential legal infirmity as well in terms of the breadth of this. Levies right away. Come back, by the way, in a week. Now, I'm not talking about a long delay. Come back in a week, 2 weeks, so that there's no appreciable delay here. But it's too broad of a discretion to give to even as good of a city manager as we have here, in my opinion. And I think that would be fair. And so I would, Councilmember Harris, I've talked to the city manager about this. I didn't just throw this out. And I think he would agree with sort of this process suggestion. And I would hope that the motion might be amended in accordance. It would mean it goes into effect on the levies as an emergency ordinance right away, Madam City Attorney? 30 days. So you're talking about a 2-week delay then for the remainder of the ordinance, but at least the public will know and we will know exactly which critical infrastructure facilities in addition to levies we're talking about. Fair enough? So when Jeff gets back, I hope the maker of the motion would amend accordingly. Let's go back. Ms. Ashby, thank you.
One more, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Mayor, first of all, I'm going to second Jeff's motion, and I will accept your changes.
He needs to first.
Yes, I know. And just a couple other things that I want to say, though. One is I also appreciate I believe it's Councilmember Hanson's change from above the hollow sidewalks to just being a below issue. I think that was wise, and there were many people that chimed in on that issue. So Councilmember Hanson, I want to support that change, which I believe was also read into the record. I want to reiterate that we need to look at taking a position in support of AB 1958, which is just about levies, it's not about the rest, and critical infrastructure. But I'd love to get that city manager back from you to know what our position is. I personally have already supported it and will support it, but I'd like to see the city of Sacramento take a position of support. And I just want to remind folks that this isn't happening in a vacuum, that we're also moving forward the 5-point plan and trying very hard to spent to the pastor who, talked about money. We've spent over $30 million starting to implement the programs for homeless housing and shelters and the facility out in District 2 and the scatter site models for all of us too. So One of them is supposed to be up this month, the other two of them by this summer. We already did one at Railroad. I'm not saying it's enough. I'm not saying that we've done it all, but I am saying we're not just doing this. We're doing the other things too. I would also like to propose one change in addition to the master list for infrastructure. At summary abatement, which is 8.140.040, Mayor, Section A says, any violation of this code may be immediately abated by the city without prior notice. I don't think that's fair. I think it should be a 24-hour notice so that if somebody is on the levy and they don't realize that they're on the levy, that they're given 24 hours of notice before they're asked to move from the levy. That is our current rule around places where people end up in a private setting or somewhere they're not supposed to be, that they are given at least 24-hour notice so they can remove their items. I think that should be added to this as well. And Council Vice Mayor Harris, did you hear the mayor's changes?
I did.
And are you accepting those changes?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right, then I will second the motion with those changes and also ask Vice Mayor if you're willing to accept the change to add 24-hour notice. Jeff?
Yeah, I want to think about that just for a second, Angelique. I want to ask our first responders, you know, is there anybody here from the impact team? Nobody currently? Noticing is a reasonable thing to expect. You know, I mean, certainly it's not our intent to just simply displace people, and we are definitely not in the business of taking their possessions from them without cause. But Mr. Conlon, can you address this a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. So our policy in the city is that we, when the impact team goes out, they do notice. We do that procedurally. I think one thing you may want to consider on this, though, is that this is applying to all critical infrastructure, and there are some cases where somebody's presence in a place presents an immediate danger to that facility and to themselves in a lot of cases. I'll give you an example. Some of the things that are critical infrastructure are, for instance, some of the power nodes and stations throughout the city where millions of volts flow through that. Somebody in that area that's cut through a fence and is in that area, we really don't have 24 hours to be able to get them out. We have to get them out as quick as we can.
I could see a scenario too in my district where there's flooding happening and 24 hours is not, like if we gave somebody 24-hour notice, they would be in danger. But perhaps we could change it to say 24-hour notice unless there's an imminent
That would be
threat
great.
of life.
That would be excellent,
So,
yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem, that is language I will accept.
Okay, great.
Good.
Thank you, Mayor.
No, good. These are good suggestions. Okay, excellent. So we got two in there now. Let's go to Councilmember Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Big issue. I think this is obviously a very critical citywide issue, and I'm having a little bit of challenge with a couple of things. So I have a couple of questions, but before I get to them, I want to say to the mayor, I think the proposals that you just made, I think were spot on to really identify what is going to be critical infrastructure with, you know, our city manager leading that way and have that come back to us so we can then notice everyone in the community. I think that's important. I think it's fair. I also would like to hear from the city attorney about the language in the ordinance around noticing, because I know we just talked about it. Councilwoman Ashby and Vice Mayor Harris have made an amendment, and it was seconded. And so, but I think it's very clear that the noticing aspect of this ordinance needs some further clarification to people that are going to be immediately impacted. And so, you know, and maybe right now is not the right time. Maybe it's something that we draft and we make some form of public statement about what that noticing is going to be, because I think it's very critical. And as I heard one lady come up and say that, you know, some of the things that they're concerned about, their ID cards and some of the other very personal items, if those things are taken away somehow, it's very difficult for these folks to, to reclaim stuff. And, I know that that's a very big part of it. I too have been impacted by homelessness in a number of ways, including fires and all that immediately behind my house. So I know that this is a critical issue. And we spend a lot of city resources dealing with these issues after the fact, when I think the investment on the front end would be much better and could go towards housing people and other solutions for people. But as I've been an advocate before, I think we need something that might be, it has been viewed as a little bit more extreme, and that's the safe ground element. I think the safe ground is a way to help take a very bad and troubling situation and organize it. Because people are living in these various places in what they hope are safe grounds anyway, and they turn out not to be. I think it is the responsibility of the city to help find places until we do have places inside where for people that want to go inside or need to go inside, until those places are available. And I'm having, the biggest part of this issue and the most concern I have is that we're taking away places that people have moved to because those places have been some of the safer places for them to be. And so those places are being taken away, and I don't know what we're offering up. And so, I think we also need to, and I think this council needs to figure that piece of this puzzle out, is we need to have a place for people to exist. Because, this is a human issue, and it's not something that's going to be solved right away. And so, I am, as I've stated before, very supportive of a safe ground in Sacramento. In fact, multiple safe grounds. And I do think, in an ideal scenario, they would be temporary. However, I think without having something like that, we're going to continually criminalize people who have not had a place to stay because they're going to be forced to places where we may not want them to be. And it's going to be a conflict with some of the other. So, my position is that I'm going to support the ordinance, but I'm also going to continue to speak about the virtues that as I see them, and hopefully the majority of this council at some point will recognize that that will be one of the best ways to help move and advance this housing issue for homeless people. And I think that's going to be having a safe ground as a component in the overall scheme of housing people in Sacramento. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, I will yield back the mic.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember Warren. Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for the city attorney first. I'll wait for her to get back to her chair. You want to turn your mic on, just so they can hear your response?
Got mics on?
Yep.
Good. Okay.
Madam City Attorney, one of the members of the public asked about the American River Parkway and the application of this ordinance, implying that this ordinance would apply to that, even though that's county land and property. Can you clarify for us what the status of this particular ordinance is vis-a-vis property that is controlled by other government entities like the American River Parkway?
It only applies to critical infrastructure that's within the city boundaries. And so if there was a levy on that particular section of the American River Parkway, it would apply. But if there's no levy or any other structure on there, then it would not apply to that part of the parkway? So
when we come back with the request the mayor made about infrastructure, I think we have to be clear that any efforts related to the parkway, that's really county jurisdiction and that's not city. The levies themselves may be in the city, and the city through SAFCA, which is a joint powers entity that we're part of, is probably why they're included here and why we can do this. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so the American River Parkway is not part of this particular ordinance.
No,
All right,
just
I
the
just-
structures are located.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear to the public. One of the other things that came up earlier was just what our efforts are around housing and homelessness. And almost every meeting, we have an item related to housing and homelessness. Affordable housing bond. Last week, we approved 20 cabins for youth in District 2. We have spent millions to enact the Excuse me, ma'am. We have spent millions to enact the mayor's call for 100 shelter beds per district. District 4 shelter is up and running with around 115 people inside on any given night. 70 people so far have been housed out of that shelter. Many have been employed and received services, reconnected to family. We have the WX shelter underway. We have the Meadowview shelter underway. We have the scattered site program underway. And I think that what the mayor said earlier, and Mr. Marin asked a very important question, did the mayor's comment about Martin v. Boise mean that we've essentially allowed camping in the rest of the city? And I think there's no conclusion other than the fact that Martin v. Boise, unless we provide sufficient shelter beds, is in effect, and our camping ordinance can't be enforced in the vast majority of the city. I think that is something that we've had to understand, and that we continue to ensure that we don't violate federal law, which is that decision. However, I think that there is also, and I represent the areas of the river all the way from 80 and the Sacramento River in the north, all the way down to Greenhaven. We have significant issues with incursions into the levee from people, not all homeless, but people digging in the levee and compromising the levee. And we saw some of those pictures. We've heard from our flood control agencies, not just RD 1000, but SAFCA, and to some extent the Army Corps of Engineers, about what could happen in a high water event if we have not properly maintained those structures. So I think that that is one of the very narrow purposes that we're trying to achieve here. The crisis of homelessness is very much on our minds every time we meet. And so I think the record, even earlier today, we approved a new restroom facility at Stanford Park for $287,000. We have a restroom under construction in Chavez Plaza at Roosevelt Park. We are working on replacement of other restrooms as well, make sure they're ADA compliant, to make sure that they are sufficient. That is only one piece of what we're doing. But a true emergency where we have a flood, a fire, some other super critical impact where a substation goes down, those are things, though, that we also have to grapple with. And I think that the duty we have to prevent fires and floods and to ensure the resiliency of that infrastructure, if you remember New Orleans, when Katrina happened, many of those pumping stations were not tested, were not prepared, and they were not able to dewater the city and stop the flooding in the 8th Ward and those other places. So when we talk about pumping stations, that is a critical piece of infrastructure for our flood preparedness. Representing a district that is largely impacted by the combined sewer system, if the combined sewer system pumps go down, then we cannot dewater the central city, Land Park, and those other neighborhoods I represent, also causing localized flooding, even if the levees don't fail. So those pumping stations on this list, they are critical to that response. And I don't think even Mr. Marin argued the nature of those resources as being essential to protect. I did request that the staff remove the above-ground hollow sidewalk language, because I think that that language, A, was unnecessary, B, probably does not belong in this, and I appreciate the city attorney reading that change into the record. The staff didn't show you, and I would ask our fire marshal to talk about an incident we had on J Street recently, where we had a report of a fire in a structure that is ultimately supposed to be demolished. And the fire truck would not park over that section of J Street because they determined, and Nico, please tell this story, they determined that the wall built in the 1880s holding up J Street had an incursion into it, and tunneling had begun into and under J Street. And they were worried that if they parked the fire truck over that segment of J Street, the street could collapse. We sent in Public Works, our building inspectors. But Jason, will you please talk about that particular incident as to why you're recommending the below-ground hollow sidewalks be included?
Yes, over the last few months, we've had a series of incidents over by the buildings located on J and 10th to 11th. There was a series of underground fires. What we found out was that the integrity for some of those areas, our fire apparatus weighs about 70,000 pounds.
70,000?
70,000 pounds. And so the imposed load of a fire apparatus in that area is of concern with the protection of the hollow sidewalk areas due to the structural integrity caused by the fires located underneath that section.
And is that particular incident one of the incidents that caused you to ask for inclusion of those retaining walls in this ordinance?
Yes.
Okay. I think that the mayor addressed one of the concerns I had, which was the discretion of the city manager, I think rightfully was too broad. And as we come back, I think a specific list of facilities is very important. I am aware that some of the facilities that staff are recommending be included are also sensitive facilities because of the potential threats to us as a state capital of incidents related to terrorism. And so some of those, I don't know how we're going to address those particular facilities that may be critical in your list, but I do think that's something we have to figure out. But I do think a specific list is extremely important because I think we want to be precise. And if you look at the maps, and to be fair, we are just seeing these maps for the first time today. And I think that is part of why I think there's a lot of questions from the public. It's easy to think the worst. How broad is this going to be? You know, and this ordinance was originally proposed as emergency, and it's still moving quite fast. But I do believe as we come back, having these maps made public, posted to Granicus, posted to a city website for information, would be helpful at reducing some of the rhetoric and hyperbole around how narrow this is, because people think it's much broader than what is actually going to be included. I think that would be helpful. Finally, I think that actually there's two more things. One, the changes that Councilmember Ashby required, I think are requested, I think those are good, 24 hours unless there's an imminent danger. I think that is absolutely an important, I think that is
Excuse me, you may not shout out from the dais. I will ask you to leave. I apologize, but this is, you've had a chance. Everyone, the councilman. Okay, I'm sorry, ma'am. You need, okay. Councilmember Hanson, please continue. Please, you need to stop or I'm going to have to ask you to leave, okay?
I think that the
Sacramento Housing Authority gives tenants 72 hours. If
Go.
I cook meth in my
Please.
unit right now,
Can you please
that means
escort-
72 hours
Quiet.
to put me out.
Gently,
But you gonna take
gently,
homeless
please,
people or something that got
gently,
24
please.
hours? I could grow weed in my unit right now.
Very-
You need 72 hours to put me out. You gonna tell a homeless person
Very
you got
gently,
24 hours
please.
to move it? One law can't violate and contradict another. Stop putting policy before human life.
Okay,
Recognize when you're writing a law that's taking over an actual real law.
okay. Okay, Councilman Hanson, please continue.
Thank you. I was actually, now that Councilmember Ashby's back, I just was thanking you. I think the change you made on notice is very good. This ordinance has to be necessarily limited. I think it has to stick to critical, and critical has to mean critical infrastructure. I also think that how we handle these incidents, we bring the impact team, we bring the social service efforts, the Sacramento Steps Forward navigators. Those have to be part of this response, and I think you give us a chance to do that with your requested amendment. I think that is extremely important. But the last thing, and you know, Mark is my neighbor. He is somebody who I think highly of, and he's here. We don't agree, obviously, on some things, but he has, in the past, sued the city over personal possessions and their destruction. And I think that we are still bound, even in this, by those settlements and those court orders. So I believe that that is one of the things that hasn't really been fully addressed in how we're going to implement this. And so on the surface of the ordinance, that doesn't appear, but in the day-to-day practice of how this gets implemented, I think we're going to have very clear policies and procedures to make sure we respect those prior decisions. And so as much as not everything will be in one ordinance or staff report, I think this is an effort that has been coming for a while. We've had requests from other agencies to ensure that their infrastructure is protected within the city boundaries. And so I'm willing to support this today, but I think we need to continue to see those clarifications, those precise sites delineated so that it can not only withstand a legal threat, which, you know, I'm sure will come in some form, but also so that we're doing this in the most narrow way and the best way to ensure that we are respecting both the rights of the people who may be unhoused, but also to make sure that we are doing our duty to protect the infrastructure that keeps our public safe. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Guerra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First I want to thank everyone who came out here today, either opposing or providing feedback on this issue. And as mentioned in the staff report, back in September of last year, there was a critical fire that happened in Elder Creek, and one that created a lot of fear and concerns in the community. And it happened near one of our drainage sump pumps that are essential to ensure that Elder Creek actually protect the homes that are living around that area, in that south area. The folks that live out there, are hardworking, folks. Their homes are their principal asset, and losing that home may have put them in a terrible situation. And over the last week, I've had the opportunity to have a conversation with some of those homeowners. One person in particular is a person who had volunteered for many years, often clothing, feeding, advocating, for the rights of those who are experiencing homelessness, and also felt this dilemma of extreme concern, because we talked about this ordinance and what it would do and what it would cause. And I think that conversation underscored the sentiment and the feeling that many folks are feeling in throughout the city, at least in my council district. My council district represents both sides of the American River levee. It represents some creeks and critical infrastructure. And the hope is that we can find solutions to help those experiencing homelessness. And at the same time, they also want to feel safe. They also want to feel that their families and livelihoods are protected. It's not one value over the other. It's making sure that we're moving to address all issues at the same time. So this was a person that again, was far more beyond connecting and talking to and helping those who were experiencing that situation. And yet again, also feeling that sense of something needs to be done in an immediate threat. I lived next to the American River levee, adjacent to it, in one of the apartment complexes in 1997 when we had the major floods, and you could see the water rising almost to the top of where the Guy West Bridge is at. And I recall the leaks in the levee that had occurred at the time, and the fear for everyone in that area was very real, of the potential of a natural disaster. So the work for us to address the issues affecting homelessness, that's going to be an ongoing work, a continuous work that's going to take not a day to resolve or a week to resolve, but one thing that we will continue to do is find those solutions to address that. A fire or a flood, though, could cause immediate danger and immediate disaster in an instant, in a moment. And if we can't get our fire department or personnel out there to address those issues, if we can't protect the livelihoods of other folks in the city as well, I think we're missing the mark here on our responsibility. We've got a lot of work ahead, but I think it's critical that we're moving forward. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I agree with the changes you made to make it better. And I hope that if there are issues that we need to tighten this up, that we'll come back and
can.
look at it again.
Sure.
So with that, I'll support
Thank you, sir.
the item moving forward.
Thank you. Councilman Carr.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Marion, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can
Come
you
on
come
up. You just got another 2 minutes.
I know you only had 2 minutes. You had a lot more to say. But let me ask you this. Do you think the city has an obligation to protect its critical infrastructure?
Sure.
And after the amendments that have been made and the specific locations that are going to be identified in a future meeting, aside from that issue, do you see any deficiencies in the ordinances we're about to?
Yes, of course. I see lots and lots of deficiencies, and 2 minutes won't do it. But I would be happy to meet with the representatives of the city and the city attorney and actually review some of the aspects that I find deficient, that I think not just I find, but that other legal decisions have identified as deficient. You have due process issues, you have notice issues. I think you cured or attempted to cure one. You have vagueness questions. I think part of the problem of critical infrastructure is actually being specific. Is something really critical infrastructure? You have electric wires, for instance. Electric wires are everywhere. What does that mean? That you can't actually camp under an electric wire? I think that has to be addressed. So, okay.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
City manager's going to come back with those specific locations, and we can quibble about them at that point. How do we address the due process issue?
Well, as the fire marshal presented when he was first presenting the ordinance, they would be posted notices that would advise people that they are in a location where any unauthorized entry is prohibited. So they would get notice there. And also there would be, now we would have this list by the city manager that would be part of the formal council action. And then, of course, now we're going to add the notice requirements for if people are caught in those areas and they're not authorized to be there, they're going to have 24-hour notice unless there's some imminent harm to them or to others. So that have the notice to leave.
Yeah. Well, I think the changes that have been made have been excellent and right on point. And I think you've made this a better ordinance, really, with your changes. And when we get to the specific sites that we consider to be critical, we can deal with those issues as they come up. I can support this ordinance. I think it's a good ordinance. I think it can withstand scrutiny. We got some lawyers around. Some say yes, some say no, but I think it can withstand my scrutiny anyway. And I, for one, have been moved to the position of Councilmember Warren that a safe ground is going to have to be part of this. We're not going to build these houses or shelters or anything fast enough and with enough size at a scale that will handle the size of the problem. It looks like to me this is sort of like all-in solutions, that we have to address everything that we can think of if we really want to move people from an unsafe environment into some type of safety until we can get around to building the affordable units that are necessary and the shelter spaces that are necessary in order to help people and get people off the street. So I support this ordinance, just looking at it from the perspective of a critical infrastructure protection ordinance.
Thank you, Larry. Final, very quick comment. You know, remember, I did not want us to appeal the Boise decision to the Supreme Court. But I think part of the challenge here is we come at this from a slightly different, if not fundamentally different construct. And maybe Mr. Warren has a middle ground here, because I do think that there is a place for safe ground. I've said that publicly, I do. But fundamentally, I view Boise not as a rationale to continue to enable people to live out in the elements. I view Boise as a clarion call for cities and counties to move faster to bring people indoors. And that's exactly what it is we are attempting, and more than attempting, doing here in the city. And it has taken too damn long, I admit it. Of course it is. But by this summer, we will have 700 new and or repurposed beds, and that's just the beginning. Repeat it a lot. And if we can help people make these triage beds with intensive case management, we'll get people in and out every 4 to 6 months in the longer-term housing, including efficiency housing, with our Housing Trust Fund, and we'll be able to impact in a positive way thousands of people. That's the direction I think we're going to continue to go in, while potentially accommodating what Councilmember Warren has suggested as either a temporary way to address the crisis along the way. All in favor of the ordinance as amended, please say aye. Aye. Oppose, abstain. That passes unanimously. We are going to move to close. What's that? Angelique, your yes vote is an aye vote. Okay, so that is unanimous. Let us adjourn to closed session. Thank you. We'll be back at 5.